Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we break down the essential technical updates from the Azure Cloud Platform for you. We're zeroing in on the announcements, the deployments that rolled out between September 22nd and September 27th, 2025.
Yeah, and this week, it really tells a pretty clear story, I think. It's about platform maturity. Wasn't just, shiny new features. A lot of it was dominated by this push for platform modernization.
Yeah.
We saw quite a few critical retirement announcements hitting.
Retirement. So things people need to act on.
Exactly, demanding immediate migration planning.
Hmm.
But it was balanced a bit by some major new features, too, focusing on resilience and, maybe more importantly for many, cost optimization. If you've got legacy architecture, Azure is, well, they're strongly signaling it's time to move on.
Okay, so that focus on, let's call it mandatory migration, that really sets the stage for our technical dive today. We've structured this to hit your high priority action items first. We'll start with those retirements, the immediate ones, the long-term ones, the hard deadlines that, need resources now. And then we'll pivot to the general availability features and the public previews that offer new ways to maybe save some money or boost performance.
Right. So your mission, if you choose to accept it for the next little while, is clear. Figure out which of these retirement deadlines actually impacts your current setup, and then spot the new GA capabilities you could maybe leverage right away, maybe even offset some of those migration efforts.
Yeah.
Let's jump straight into the compute stack, because there's one date next year that is just, well, it's non-negotiable.
Right. Let's start there. The most pressing item, you're saying. Which one is hybrid and edge compute?
That's the one. It's the retirement of Azure App Service on Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes. It starts September 30th, 2025, so really soon.
September 30th, 2025. Wow, okay.
Yeah. And the implication here is pretty severe. If you rely on that specific extension for hosting apps on your Arc-enabled clusters, well, after that date, you won't be able to install it or even update it. It's a crucial near-term deadline. It really forces a migration to other, more established hosting solutions. Think native AKS, or maybe a self-managed environment, or even pulling workloads back into managed app services, perhaps.
That is a serious deadline, especially for anyone relying on that particular hybrid abstraction layer. Okay, looking a bit further out then, there's another big compute migration, but you mentioned this one might actually introduce a better architecture for serverless.
That's right. You're probably thinking about the retirement of the Linux consumption hosting plan for Azure Functions. That one's set for September 30, 2028.
2028, okay, bit more breathing room there.
A bit more, yes. But the required move is to the Flex consumption plan. And honestly, this isn't just a you must upgrade thing. It's a genuine technical improvement. For years, I mean, the big complaints with the original Linux consumption plan were, cold starts and pretty poor concurrency control.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Flex consumption tackles that directly. It offers significant cold start mitigation, much better concurrency management, and faster scaling dynamics. This is basically Microsoft moving everyone towards the definitive high-performance way to run serverless functions going forward.
So it's less about just retiring a product and more about platform evolution, kind of pushing towards performance gains.
Okay.
Beyond functions, you also mentioned some cleanup in like core VMs and specialized compute. What are the key hardware retirements there?
Yeah, there are two related decommissioning notices to be aware of. First, if you're using GPU acceleration, the NVV3 series Azure virtual machines, we're talking specific SKUs like standard NV12s, V3, and so on. Those are retiring on September 30, 2026.
NVV3 in 2026. Got it.
So that means planning for replacement SKUs, probably the more modern NV series, right?
Makes sense.
Second, for more specialized infrastructure, the Azure VMware Solution AV36 node is retiring. That's June 30, 2028.
AVS AV36,
Yeah.
2028. Okay.
The immediate action item there really is to check the expiration dates on any reserved instances, any RIs you have tied to those AV36 nodes. Your RI term just cannot extend past that June 2028 date.
Right. Good point on the RIs. Need to align those. Now, speaking of infrastructure, there was one long-term announcement that kind of jumped out at me, the retirement of Azure Disk Encryption, ADE. Why push people away from ADE towards, encryption at host? Especially since ADE felt like the standard for quite a while.
Yeah, that's a really critical question, and it points to an architectural shift, really. It fundamentally changes how encryption is handled. See, Azure Disk Encryption ADE needed a VM extension, right, to manage and deploy the encryption on the OS and data disks. That added complexity, It could slow down deployments, boot times.
The extension management, yeah.
Exactly. So by retiring ADE and recommending encryption at host, Microsoft is essentially shifting those encryption and decryption processes off the guest OS entirely and onto the underlying host fabric.
Ah, okay, off the VM itself.
Precisely. And the benefits are pretty clear. Broader OS support because the guest doesn't need specific drivers, simpler key management without the extension hassle, and often actually a better performance profile because the compute fabric is doing the heavy lifting. It's a definite move towards a cleaner, simpler, host-managed security model.
That distinction, moving the workload off the guest VM, that's the key takeaway there for architects, I think. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. What about specialized services that are also getting pruned?
Right. On the storage tooling side, support for the older BlobFuse v1 is being discontinued.
BlobFuse v1.
Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward. It's just a mandate to upgrade to BlobFuse v2. All the future innovation for, mounting Azure Blob storage like a local file system, that's all going into v2 exclusively. So if you want ongoing security patches, feature enhancements, you just have to make that upgrade.
Makes sense. Keep current with the tooling. And for folks using the AI language stack, there was something there too.
That's right. A planned retirement for entity linking from Azure AI language.
Entity linking, okay. Is there a direct replacement?
Yep. The suggested path is to use named entity recognition, or NER, also from Azure AI language. Microsoft notes that NER also includes entity identification capabilities, so it should cover those use cases, ensuring continuity for those specific NLP workloads.
Okay, good. A clear path forward is always helpful. Right, so we've covered the pain points, the deadlines, the things you have to do. Now, let's look at the flip side, the reward, maybe? The new general availability features that might make some of those migrations feel a bit more worthwhile. Starting with what you mentioned as a huge win for financial optimization.
Absolutely. I think the highlight here, definitely for cost and performance optimization, is the GA of the Azure NetApp Files Flexible service level.
NetApp Files Flexible, what's the big deal there?
Well, it fundamentally changes how you consume that high-end storage. Historically, with NetApp Files, capacity and throughput they were tightly coupled. So, for example, if you needed, say, 40 megabytes per second of throughput, you often had to buy like whole terabyte of storage capacity, even if you were only actually using maybe 200 gigs of data.
Yeah, paying for capacity you didn't need just to get the speed.
Exactly. This new flexible service level lets you configure storage capacity and performance throughput independently. You avoid that cost tax of over-provisioning storage just to hit your performance numbers.
That decoupling sounds like it could have an immediate budget impact for high-performance workloads. That's interesting. Okay, moving from cost to resilience. What's the major update affecting, say, high-end disaster recovery?
Yeah, resilience got a pretty significant boost with the general availability of Azure Site Recovery, ASR, support for virtual machines using premium SSD v2 disks.
Premium SSD v2. That's the really fast stuff, right?
That's Microsoft's highest performance managed disk offering, yeah. And previously, getting seamless DR integration with ASR for VMs using those disks was, let's say, a challenge. Now, ASR officially supports those high-performance disks, so even your most demanding, lowest latency workloads can now leverage that seamless disaster recovery across Azure regions or even from on-prem environments.
That closes a gap for sure. Good to see. Staying on that storage and resilience theme, there were also new capabilities for file shares, I believe.
Indeed. We saw the GA of Vaulted Backup for Azure Files Premium.
Vaulted Backup? What does that add?
It essentially provides a critical layer of, vaulted protection directly for your premium file shares. Think of it like an extra secure, isolated backup copy. Vaulted Backup really helps ensure business continuity by protecting those shares against accidental deletion, or, maybe more relevant today, against malicious activity and ransomware. It's a necessary hardening step for that premium storage tier.
Right. Ransomware protection is definitely top of mind. Good addition. Let's talk databases for a second. There was an update for MySQL Flexible Server, something about giving admins tighter control over backup storage.
That's the one. General availability for delete on-demand backup in Azure DB for MySQL Flexible Server.
Okay. Delete on-demand backup.
Yeah, so we've had the ability to manually trigger on-demand backups for a little while now, right? But this new feature lets administrators manually delete those specific on-demand backups afterwards. It just gives more granular control back to you, the user, to manage your storage consumption and maybe clean up backup points in time that you just don't need anymore.
Okay. So better lifecycle management for those manual backups. Makes sense. All right, finally, there were two major GA announcements impacting connectivity and developer velocity. First up, networking performance.
Yep. We have the general availability of server-sent events, SSE, with application gateway.
Server-sent events,
Yeah,
SSE.
so think about applications that need real-time but primarily one-way data streaming. Things like status updates, notifications, maybe simple monitoring feeds. For those scenarios, SSE is vastly more efficient than traditional methods like polling.
How so?
Y'all, think of it like the server instantly tells your client the news the moment it happens, instead of your application constantly having to knock on the server's door asking anything new, anything new.
Ah, push versus pull.
Exactly. It cuts down massively on the HTTP connection overhead and just the general complexity for those kinds of real-time updates.
Okay, cool. And on the developer side, you mentioned a big step for AI-assisted migration.
Yeah, this one can be pretty impactful. It's the GA of GitHub Copilot app modernization capabilities for Java and .NET.
Copilot for modernization. Interesting.
We all know app modernization in big enterprises. It's often super redundant, complex. It can involve thousands of hours just updating old frameworks, fixing syntax, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, the boilerplate work.
Precisely. These new Copilot capabilities are specifically aimed at streamlining that effort, letting enterprise developers automate a lot of those boilerplate migration tasks. The idea is to shift their focus away from just manually translating old code and onto genuine innovation within the newly updated stack.
Wow, okay. That could be a massive productivity booster if it works well. Anything that reduces that modernization drudgery is welcome. Okay, so to wrap up the new announcements then, let's quickly cover the essential management updates and the key public preview that dropped.
Sure. In terms of management, it was more of a cosmetic change, but
Yeah.
maybe useful organizationally within AKS. The Insights blade in AKS has been renamed to Monitor.
Insights is now Monitor. Okay.
And maybe more importantly, it's been moved. It used to be kind of buried within the monitoring section. Now it's relocated right to the top level of the table of contents in the AKS portal blade. It's purely for visibility, really. The underlying features, the data, it's all exactly the same, just easier to find.
Got it. Easier access is always good. And the key public preview announcement, what does that focus on?
This looks like a really nice addition to the Azure Migrate toolkit. It's the public preview of Discover and Assess PostgreSQL in Azure Migrate.
Ah, bringing PostgreSQL into Azure Migrate discovery.
Exactly. This feature lets you centralize the discovery and assessment of your PostgreSQL resources, pretty much no matter where they're currently running, whether that's VMware, Hyper-V, physical servers, or even other cloud platforms. Having that initial discovery and assessment centralized is super helpful for easing the migration planning process when you're looking to move those PostgreSQL workloads into Azure database offerings.
Yeah, simplifying that upfront discovery is huge for migration projects.
Okay, so kind of synthesizing this week's movement then, it feels like there's this strong tension, right?
Okay.
Between the platform really pushing technical debt out the door, but also providing some powerful new tools to help manage those transitions.
That's a good way to put it.
The migration burden definitely feels high. I mean, app service on Arc, Linux functions, disk encryption, those are significant changes.
Yeah.
But then the compensation is these pretty powerful optimization capabilities like the NetApp Files Flexible level, or ASR, now supporting premium SSD v2.
I think the synthesized message is really clear. Azure is mandating modernization. It's pushing towards unified, flexible consumption models. The platform is actively retiring those specific, maybe siloed or less efficient older solutions and strongly encouraging users toward things like host-managed security, better performing serverless architectures. It's really the hallmark of a maturing hyperscale cloud, isn't it? Getting rid of the old stuff. Yeah, cleaning house. Okay, that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, to maybe explore this week. Given that specific and frankly immediate retirement of Azure App Service on Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes happening by September 30th next year, how will this forced exit actually accelerate your evaluation of other hosting solutions? Specifically thinking about native AKS maybe, especially if your initial Arc plan was perhaps intended as a longer, multi-year intermediate step. Now really seems like the time to finalize that exit strategy.
Absolutely. That migration clock, for quite a few people, is probably ticking faster than they realize.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll catch you next week with the latest essential intelligence from the cloud.